You know, sometimes life doesn't ask for your permission before it changes everything. One moment you're standing still, calm, content, maybe even certain, and the next, love walks in and rewrites your entire story. Love isn't just about affection or romance, it's about devotion, loyalty, that quiet, burning promise you make to something or someone that matters more than yourself, and loyalty. That's where things get interesting, because loyalty, real loyalty, doesn't live in the easy moments. It shows up when it costs you something, when it hurts, when it tests you, when it asks you to do the unthinkable. Tonight I want to talk about the power of loyalty, when love forces you to do the unthinkable, and maybe by the end you'll see that sometimes the most unbelievable acts come not from strength, but from love. I think a lot about what loyalty really means. We throw that word around so easily. Loyalty to a brand, loyalty to a team, loyalty to a cause, but real loyalty, the kind that changes you, that begins where comfort ends. Because the truth is, loyalty doesn't need to exist when things are easy, when everything's going right, when people are kind, when life feels safe. Loyalty doesn't have to prove itself, it just sits quietly in the background. But when things start to fall apart, when the fire comes, when loss knocks on your door, when you're faced with choices that hurt, that's when loyalty shows its face. That's when you find out who you really are, and who's really standing beside you. Loyalty begins when the ground shakes under your feet. It's born in discomfort, in fear, in uncertainty. It's when you have every reason to walk away, and you don't. It's when you stay, not because you have something to gain, but because walking away would mean betraying what you love most. I once met a man who had served in a rescue unit for almost 20 years. He told me about a night during a wildfire when he and his team had to go back into a burning zone after everyone else had evacuated. The flames had jumped the line, the air was thick with smoke, visibility was gone. Everyone told him not to go back, but one of his friends, his teammate, was missing. He said something that I've never forgotten. He said, "You don't count the costs when it's someone you love. That's loyalty. It's not a decision you make with logic. It's a choice your soul makes before your mind even catches up. And it doesn't always happen in such dramatic moments. Sometimes it's quiet. It's the friend who answers the phone at 3 a.m. when you're falling apart. The partner who believes in you when you've stopped believing in yourself. The parent who sacrifices sleep, dreams, comfort, just to make sure their child has a chance at something better." Psychologists talk about self-transcendence, the moment when a person's purpose becomes bigger than their own survival. When you stop living for yourself and start living through love for something beyond you. That's loyalty in its purest form. It's when fear loses its grip because the person or principle you stand for matters more than your own safety. We live in a world that loves convenience. Everything is about speed, comfort, ease. We want instant results, instant happiness, instant relief. But loyalty doesn't live in the instant. It lives in the endurance. It's forged in time, through pressure and pain and persistence. Think about the people who've stood beside you the longest. Chances are it's not because life was always beautiful with them. It's because you went through storms together. You saw each other's flaws, mistakes, failures, and still chose to stay. That kind of bond doesn't happen on sunny days. It's made in the rain. I remember a story about a woman who owned a small bakery in a quiet town. She had an employee, a young man who made mistakes constantly. Late orders, burned trays, broken plates. Everyone told her to fire him, but she didn't. Instead, she trained him, guided him, stayed patient. People thought she was too kind. Years later, that same man took over the business when she fell ill. He doubled its size. And he still tells people that everything he learned about loyalty came from her refusal to give up on him when everyone else had. That's what I mean when I say loyalty begins where comfort ends. It's easy to support someone who never fails you. It's easy to believe in a dream that's succeeding. But what happens when it all falls apart? When someone you love disappoints you? When your vision crumbles? That's the moment that tests the depth of your loyalty. There's a line from an old samurai code that says, "Loyalty is the flower of adversity." I think that's true because it's only when things get hard that loyalty blooms. It's the kind of flower that doesn't grow in sunlight. It grows in the dark, fed by resilience and faith. And here's something else. Loyalty doesn't mean blind obedience. It doesn't mean losing yourself in someone else. It means standing beside them while staying true to your own principles. It's not about surrender. It's about solidarity. It's the courage to say, I'm here, even when the world tells you to run. Sometimes loyalty will hurt. It will cost you time, maybe relationships, sometimes even parts of yourself. But every great thing that endures in this world, every meaningful love, every lifelong friendship, every lasting cause, has loyalty at its roots. It's what holds everything together when the surface starts to break apart. If you've ever been betrayed, you know what the absence of loyalty feels like. It's a deep, quiet ache. But that pain is also proof that loyalty matters, because you wouldn't feel its loss so deeply if it wasn't sacred. And when you find it, real loyalty, you'll know it doesn't have to announce itself. It's not loud. It's not boastful. It doesn't demand attention or applause. It's that steady grounding force that tells you, no matter what happens, I've got you. It's in the soldier who goes back for a fallen brother. It's in the nurse who stays past her shift because her patient's afraid. It's in the friend who shows up again and again, even when you've pushed them away. It's in the promise you keep to yourself, to stay true to your values when no one's watching. The irony is that the moments that test our loyalty, the pain, the discomfort, the sacrifice, are also the moments that define us. They show us who we are beneath the surface. They show us the shape of our love, because when everything's stripped away, loyalty is what remains. It's the echo of love that doesn't depend on circumstance. It's love made steadfast. So if you ever find yourself standing at that crossroads, when staying feels hard, when the fire burns, when the world says it's easier to give up, remember this: loyalty begins where comfort ends, and in that uncomfortable place where it hurts, where it's uncertain, where it feels impossible, that's where you'll find the truest parts of yourself. That's where love stops being a feeling and becomes an action. Because loyalty isn't what we say, it's what we do, and doing it costs us something. And when you look back on your life, it won't be the easy days that define you. It'll be the hard ones. The moments when you chose to stay, the times you stood tall, held the line, and said, I'm not leaving. That's where comfort ends and character begins. That's where loyalty lives. I've always believed that loyalty, real loyalty, doesn't exist in a vacuum. Doesn't appear out of nowhere or grow on its own. It's born from something deeper, something invisible but undeniable. Love. Love is the engine that drives loyalty forward. Without it, loyalty becomes routine, mechanical, something you do out of obligation. But when love fuels it, loyalty turns into something beautiful, something powerful enough to move mountains and endure time. When you love someone, a person, a cause, an idea, something inside you shifts. The world stops being just about you. It becomes about us. You start to see your own reflection in the people you care for, in the dreams you chase, in the promises you make. And once that happens, it's almost impossible to walk away. Love connects you to something greater than your own comfort. It binds you to purpose. It makes loyalty not a duty but a calling. I met a man once who'd been married for over 50 years. His wife was in the late stages of Alzheimer's, and every day he'd visit her in the nursing home. She no longer recognized his face. She didn't know his name. But he sat by her side, reading her the same stories they used to share. Someone asked him, "Why do you keep coming back when she doesn't even remember you?" He smiled softly and said, "Because I remember her." That's what love does. It makes loyalty sacred. It turns commitment into an act of devotion, not expectation. When love is real, it doesn't ask for recognition. It simply gives. Because love at its core isn't about being remembered. It's about remembering. Love is the quiet force that moves people to stay when logic tells them to go. It's what keeps a parent awake through endless nights beside a sick child, whispering lullabies into the dark. It's what makes a soldier run back into danger to save a fallen friend. It's what keeps a partner holding on through years of struggle, believing that the light at the end is worth it. These aren't just stories. They're proof that love gives loyalty its wings. If you strip away love, loyalty becomes hollow. You can follow orders. You can stay out of obligation. You can play your part. But without love, it's just a shadow of what it could be. Love gives loyalty its heartbeat. It turns endurance into grace. It transforms what could be a cage into freedom. Because love doesn't bind, it liberates through choice. In a world that often confuses passion with possession, it's important to understand that love-driven loyalty isn't about ownership. It's not about control. It's not saying, you belong to me. It's saying, I choose you freely every single day. Love gives you the courage to be loyal not because you have to, but because you want to. There's a kind of beauty in that kind of choice. It's simple, yet it's the hardest thing in the world to sustain, because love will test you. It will ask you to stand in storms, to forgive when it hurts, to believe when evidence says you shouldn't. But love doesn't abandon, it evolves, and that evolution, that willingness to keep showing up, is what fuels loyalty through the hardest seasons of life. Think about your own journey. Maybe there was a time when someone believed in you more than you believed in yourself. Maybe they stayed even when you were lost, angry, or broken. Maybe they saw a version of you that you couldn't yet see. That's love, that's loyalty powered by faith. It's one of the most healing forces we can experience. Being seen when you feel invisible, being loved when you feel unlovable. And that love doesn't just transform the receiver, it transforms the giver too. Because every time you choose loyalty from a place of love, you grow, you become stronger, softer, wiser. You learn patience, empathy, humility. Love stretches you until you realize how wide your heart can really open. History is filled with people whose loyalty to love changed the world. Think of people like Nelson Mandela, who spent 27 years in prison not out of hate, but out of love for freedom. And his people, his loyalty wasn't born from anger. It was powered by compassion. It's the same with countless unsung heroes. Teachers who never give up on a struggling student, doctors who work through exhaustion because they care, friends who keep showing up even when they get nothing in return. Every act of loyalty rooted in love ripples outward and reminds us of our shared humanity. But love doesn't make loyalty easy. Sometimes love is the very reason loyalty hurts. It's what makes loss unbearable, sacrifice heavy, and distance cruel. But the pain doesn't mean it's wrong, it means it's real, it means it mattered. Because love that costs nothing often means nothing. It's the love that costs you something, time, ego, pride, that becomes unbreakable. There's this strange paradox. Love makes you vulnerable, but that same vulnerability makes you strong. Loyalty born of love teaches you how to stay open in a world that constantly tells you to harden. It reminds you that courage isn't about being fearless, it's about loving despite fear. Sometimes people ask, how do I know if what I feel is love? The answer is simple. Love is what makes you loyal beyond reason. It's when you stay not for what you get, but for what you give. It's when you defend someone who isn't perfect, because you see the beauty in their imperfection. It's when you protect a dream, even when it's falling apart. Love makes you stand taller, not because you're certain of the outcome, but because you believe it's worth it. When love drives loyalty, something incredible happens. It dissolves the boundaries between self and other. You start to realize that your well-being is connected to the well-being of those around you. You stop asking, what's in it for me? And start asking, what can I give? That shift changes everything. It's the foundation of empathy, kindness, community. It's how humanity survives and thrives, and maybe that's the greatest truth of all. Love isn't just the engine behind loyalty, it's the engine behind everything good we've ever built. It's why we create art, why we heal, why we fight for justice, why we forgive. Without love, loyalty fades into obedience, but with love, loyalty becomes eternal. So when you think about loyalty to a person, to your purpose, to your own integrity, remember where it begins. It begins with love, the kind of love that doesn't seek perfection but embraces imperfection, the kind that stays through chaos, the kind that whispers, I'm here, even when the world grows silent, because in the end, loyalty is just love, standing its ground. It's love in motion. It's love choosing to stay even when it hurts. It's love refusing to let go, not because it's blind, but because it sees too clearly to walk away. And that kind of love, the one that keeps showing up again and again, that's what keeps this whole world from falling apart. There's something about loyalty that people don't often talk about. Everyone loves to celebrate it. The idea of standing by someone, staying true, never giving up. It sounds noble, poetic, almost effortless when we say it out loud. But the truth is, loyalty isn't easy. It's not gentle. It's not always beautiful in the moment. Loyalty demands sacrifice. It asks something from you, sometimes everything. It will cost you comfort, time, maybe even a piece of yourself. But in return, it gives you something that's far more valuable. It gives you meaning. We live in a world that avoids sacrifice. Everything is designed to make life simpler, faster, more convenient. But loyalty doesn't work that way. It doesn't live in shortcuts. Loyalty is about staying when it would be easier to go, showing up when you're tired, believing when the world stops believing. It's about giving your energy, your patience, your heart. Not because someone earned it, but because you decided they were worth it. And that's where the paradox lies. Because when you give yourself like that, when you pour everything you have into love, friendship, purpose, or truth, you'd think you'd be empty afterward. But the opposite happens. You become full. That's what sacrifice does when it's driven by loyalty. It doesn't drain you. It defines you. It turns pain into purpose. I once met a man who had spent years volunteering in disaster zones, earthquakes, floods, wildfires. He'd seen devastation, loss, human suffering at its worst. I asked him once, "Why do you keep doing it? Doesn't it break you?" He looked at me and said, "Yeah, it breaks me every single time, but it also puts me back together in a way nothing else ever could." That's what loyalty does. It breaks you open so you can hold more humanity inside. Sacrifice isn't just about grand gestures. It's also found in the small, quiet acts of devotion. The mother who skips meals so her children can eat. The friend who sits with you in silence when words won't help. The partner who puts aside their pride to keep the relationship alive. These moments don't make headlines, but they're the backbone of what keeps this world from collapsing under its own selfishness. And loyalty, real loyalty, often asks you to endure without reward. You might not get recognition, you might not even get gratitude, but you do get meaning, because deep down you'll know you stayed true. You kept your word, you gave something that mattered, and that knowledge, that quiet sense of integrity, that's worth more than applause. Sacrifice is often misunderstood. People see it as loss, as weakness, as surrender, but I think it's the opposite. Sacrifice is strength. The kind that doesn't shout, the kind that doesn't need validation. It's strength built on love and conviction. Because only someone who truly cares can give something up willingly. There's a story I've always carried with me, about a man who raised his younger brother after their parents died. They were poor, living in a small apartment, both working odd jobs. Years later, the older brother got accepted into a university in another country, a dream he'd worked for his entire life. But when he found out his brother had dropped out of school to pay the bills, he turned down the scholarship and stayed. Years later, his brother became a doctor, and when asked how it happened, he said, "Because someone loved me enough to lose his dream for mine." That's loyalty, that's sacrifice, and that's meaning. It's not about success in the world's eyes. It's about doing what's right in the heart's eyes. Sometimes the sacrifice loyalty asks for isn't about others. It's about staying loyal to yourself. That's a harder kind of sacrifice, because it often means walking away from people, from comfort, from approval. It's saying no when the world expects yes. It's standing up for what you believe, even when it costs you acceptance. Staying loyal to your values might isolate you, but it also anchors you. It keeps your spirit from drifting in a sea of compromise. And when loyalty and sacrifice come together, something profound happens. You start to see that the two are really part of the same truth, that love, real love, will always demand something from you. If it doesn't, it's probably not real. Love will ask you to risk your heart. Friendship will ask you to forgive. Purpose will ask you to endure failure. And yet, through all that giving, all that pain, you'll find something unshakable. Meaning. Meaning is what makes the suffering worthwhile. It's what turns loss into legacy, what transforms exhaustion into fulfillment. You can't fake that. You can't buy it. It's something you earn by giving pieces of yourself to something greater. Think about every story that's ever moved you. The hero who gives up safety to save others, the mentor who believes in someone until they finally believe in themselves, the person who stands up for truth even when it costs them everything. What makes those stories powerful isn't the victory at the end, it's the sacrifice along the way, because that's where the meaning lives, in the moments when someone says, "I will stay," even when it hurts. There's a certain peace that comes with sacrifice too. Not in the moment, no, in the moment it can feel unbearable. But afterward, when you look back, you realize you wouldn't trade that pain for anything, because that's where you found out who you are. Loyalty refines you in the fire of sacrifice. It burns away what's shallow, what's temporary, and leaves behind only what's true. Sometimes we chase happiness like it's the goal, but happiness is fragile. It comes and goes. Meaning, on the other hand, stays. Meaning grows roots, and the soil it grows in is sacrifice. Every time you choose loyalty over comfort, integrity over convenience, love over fear, you're planting seeds of meaning. They take time to grow, but when they do, they fill your life with a kind of quiet light that doesn't fade. There's a line from an old film where the character says, "It's not the easy choices that define us, it's the hard ones." That's what loyalty and sacrifice are all about, the hard choices, the ones that stretch you, test you, shape you, the ones that make you question everything, and still somehow bring you closer to what matters most. You might lose things along the way, time, comfort, even people, but you'll gain something more profound. You'll gain meaning, and meaning is the one thing that can carry you through anything. So maybe the secret isn't to run from sacrifice. Maybe it's to embrace it, to see it not as loss, but as an offering. Because every time you give out of love, not obligation, not fear, you're adding something sacred to this world. And that's the truth about loyalty. It will demand pieces of you. It will stretch your heart until it feels like it might break. But it will also fill those spaces with something far deeper. The understanding that you lived for something real, that you stood by something that mattered. In the end, loyalty might cost you comfort, but it gives you meaning in return. And that meaning, that quiet, unshakable sense of purpose, is what makes a life worth living. Betrayal is one of those experiences that cuts deeper than almost anything else. It's not just the breaking of trust, it's the shattering of something invisible, something sacred. You feel it not only in your mind but in your bones, in the quiet spaces of your heart where you once felt safe. When someone betrays you, it's not the act itself that hurts the most. It's what it reveals, that what you believed to be solid was, in truth, fragile all along. Yet, as painful as it is, betrayal has a strange way of teaching us the weight of loyalty. It shows us what it truly means to stay, to stand, to be unwavering when others cannot. The truth is, you don't really understand loyalty until it's tested. You can talk about it, believe in it, promise it, but you only feel its value after you've seen it broken. Betrayal opens your eyes in a way comfort never could. It strips away illusions. It makes you see the difference between words and actions, between people who are there for convenience and people who are there for love. It teaches you to recognize the rare ones, the ones who don't walk away when things get hard, who don't disappear when the storm hits. There's a silence that follows betrayal. It's heavy, almost unbearable. You replay the moments in your head, the laughter, the promises, the trust, and you wonder how it all unraveled so easily. But hidden within that silence, if you're willing to sit with it, there's a kind of wisdom waiting for you. It whispers that loyalty isn't just about standing by others, it's also about learning who deserves that kind of devotion. I remember talking to someone who had been betrayed by a lifelong friend. They'd known each other since childhood, shared every joy, every heartbreak. Then one day that friend chose self-interest over honesty. The betrayal left him hollow for years. When I asked him how he found peace, he said, "I didn't lose a friend that day. I lost an illusion." The friend I thought I had never really existed. That hit me hard, because sometimes betrayal isn't the destruction of something real. It's the unveiling of something that never was. And yet, in that revelation lies the power of growth. Betrayal, as much as it wounds, can purify, it burns away what's false. It teaches you to see people for who they are, and yourself for who you can become. It sharpens your understanding of trust, of loyalty, of love, and perhaps most importantly, It reminds you of how precious those things are. When you find them, when loyalty is broken, you begin to appreciate how rare true loyalty really is. You start to see that in a world full of shifting loyalties, of temporary connections, the people who stand beside you through pain and imperfection, those are treasures. Those are the ones who don't need to be perfect, because their constancy is perfection. The weight of loyalty is heavy. It requires patience, humility, forgiveness. It's not about flawless people, it's about people who keep showing up. Betrayal exposes that weight. It makes you realize that loyalty isn't something you can demand, it's something you give and something you earn. It can't be forced, it can't be faked. And maybe that's why betrayal hurts so much, because it mocks something sacred. It's not just disloyalty, it's the corruption of love. When someone betrays you, they betray not just your trust, but the best version of themselves that you believed in. But that pain, as unbearable as it feels, doesn't have to destroy you. It can rebuild you, if you let it. When your trust has been broken, you have a choice. You can let the wound close around bitterness, or you can let it open you to understanding. You can let it harden your heart, or you can let it teach you to love more wisely. Betrayal is not a reason to stop believing in loyalty. It's a reminder of why loyalty matters so much. Think about it. Every time someone stands by you when they have no reason to, when it costs them something to stay, that's loyalty, that's courage, it's the opposite of betrayal. And when you've experienced betrayal, that kind of loyalty shines brighter than ever. You can feel its weight, its beauty, its truth, because now you know what it looks like when it's missing. There's a story about a woman who ran a small family business with her brother. She trusted him completely, shared everything. One day she found out he'd been stealing from the company for years. It wasn't just about the money, it was about what it meant. Her heart broke. She could have walked away from everything. Instead, she rebuilt, not out of vengeance, but out of love for what she had built before the betrayal. When asked why she didn't give up, she said, "I realized I wasn't loyal to him. I was loyal to my values." That's one of the hardest lessons betrayal teaches. That loyalty to others is important, but loyalty to your principles, to your integrity, to your sense of right and wrong must come first. You can forgive someone without pretending what they did was okay. You can move on without letting bitterness define you. That's strength. That's wisdom. It's strange, isn't it? Betrayal, something born from deceit, can still lead to truth. It forces you to clarify who you are, what you believe in, and where your loyalty truly belongs. It strips away the false layers of dependence and makes you stand on your own 2 feet. You begin to see that loyalty isn't about blind devotion. It's about conscious choice. The decision to stay true, even when the world disappoints you. The greatest act of resilience is to remain loyal to love after betrayal, not to the person who hurt you, but to the idea of love itself, to still believe that trust is worth giving, that people can be good, that faith in others isn't a mistake. Betrayal can teach you how to love better, with open eyes and a steady heart. And maybe that's the real gift in disguise, when you've been betrayed and you still choose to be kind, still choose to trust, still choose to believe. That's not weakness, that's power. Because it means betrayal didn't take the best parts of you. It means you've learned the weight of loyalty and you're strong enough to carry it. The people who betray you will fade from your story eventually, but the lessons they leave behind will not. They'll remind you to value loyalty, to nurture it, to protect it, to never take it for granted again, to see loyalty not as an expectation but as a gift. So when someone stands by you, when someone keeps their promise, when someone chooses you in your worst moments, notice it, feel it, honor it, because loyalty, once broken, teaches you just how rare and precious it truly is. And that understanding, that weight, stays with you forever. In the end, betrayal doesn't define you, your response to it does. And when you choose to keep your heart open, to remain loyal to goodness despite the pain, you're proving something incredible. That love is stronger than betrayal, and loyalty, when tested, becomes unbreakable. Sometimes the things we do for love don't make sense to anyone else. They look irrational, reckless, even a little crazy. You'll hear people say, "Why would you risk everything for that?" Or "You could have just walked away." But when love is real, when it's deep, raw, and unfiltered, it moves you in ways logic can't understand. The unthinkable isn't madness, it's love in motion. Love doesn't follow rules. It doesn't ask for permission or wait for perfect timing. It just happens, quietly or suddenly, and then everything you thought you knew about yourself changes. Love doesn't care about what's practical. It cares about what's true. It's the invisible force that makes someone jump into freezing water to save a stranger, that makes a mother lift a car off her child, that makes a person cross oceans for someone they've never met in person. It's unexplainable, unstoppable, and, in the truest sense, human. There's this moment when love asks you to go beyond what you think you're capable of. It calls you to act, to give, to fight for something bigger than yourself. And it's in that moment when your heart tells you to leap, even if your mind is screaming no, that you come face to face with the unthinkable. And that's where love becomes movement, not just emotion. I remember hearing a story about a father who donated part of his liver to his teenage daughter. The surgery was dangerous. There were risks that could have taken his life. Someone asked him afterward if he'd been scared. He said, "Of course, but love doesn't calculate risk. It just moves." That line stuck with me because that's what love does. It moves us beyond reason, beyond fear, into something sacred. Love isn't madness, it's meaning in motion. It's what drives people to stay beside hospital beds night after night, whispering hope into the darkness. It's what makes artists paint until dawn, believing that beauty can still heal the world. It's what makes people forgive when it would be easier to hate. There's something deeply powerful about that. Love doesn't always win in the conventional sense, but it transforms the one who carries it. The world tells us to be cautious, to protect ourselves, to think before we feel. But sometimes love asks the opposite. Sometimes it says, feel first, trust the fall. And those moments, the ones that make no sense from the outside, are often the ones that define who we are. Because love, when it moves, doesn't just touch others. It reshapes the person who dares to act on it. I think about the people who've loved enough to stand up for justice, even when it cost them everything. The ones who chose compassion over comfort. The ones who refused to stay silent in the face of cruelty. Those acts of courage might seem unthinkable, but they're not madness. They're love refusing to stay still. Love in motion is messy. It breaks routines, defies expectations, challenges logic. It asks you to give your all with no guarantee of getting anything back. And still, people do it every day. They love despite rejection. They forgive despite betrayal. They hope despite heartbreak. Because something inside us knows that life without love isn't really life. It's just survival. There's a kind of quiet heroism in that. In every person who keeps loving, even when the world gives them a reason not to. In every soul who chooses empathy when anger would be easier. That's love in motion. The courage to move toward connection in a world that teaches us to hide behind walls. So maybe the unthinkable isn't something to fear. Maybe it's the truest reflection of who we are when love takes the wheel. Because when love moves through us, we stop thinking about what's safe or sensible. We just act, instinctively, beautifully, humanly. And that's not madness, that's grace. That's love becoming something alive, something that touches the world and reminds it what it means to feel. Loyalty isn't about perfection. It's about persistence. It's about standing your ground, not because you have to, but because love won't let you do anything else. So when love pushes you to the edge, when it asks you to do the unthinkable, don't back away, because sometimes the unthinkable is exactly what makes us human. Thank you.